Okie dokie. Let's get into a piece that I have up on TexasFootball.com about the best Texas high school football regions in 2020. And this is a common debate. And I think a lot of the common debate centers on fundamentally two things. One, which major metro area has the best football? Mm-hmm. And two, where can you find the best small school football? And I think that those are things that are generally pretty separated. But I also think it's important to view things holistically. And so at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, we divide the state into 21 regions. There are some places that do it as few as like 7. There are some places that do it as few as like 12. We do it into 21 regions. I believe the largest region is Houston, maybe DFW. It's either DFW or Houston, as far as most number of schools. And the smallest region, I believe, is the Hill Country. I want to say that's the one that has the fewest number of schools in it. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to take an analytical eye to it. And using the Dave Campbell's Texas Football computer rankings, I wanted to take a look at which regions on balance have the strongest high school football. And so what I did was I took all the teams and I looked at their final postseason rating in the Dave Campbell's Texas Football rankings. And more or less, I just kind of averaged all the teams out. You know, we can talk about whether or not that's the best way about going about it, because there's some places that, for example, DFW had the most state championships, right? They had the most state championships this year, but they also have the most teams. So wouldn't it stand to reason that they should? And furthermore, yes, because they had one of the very best teams in the state in Denton Ryan or Aledo, right? Should that count more than having some teams that really, really struggled in 2020? Like, there's a balance there of, like, when you take things holistically, you're going to have teams at the very top, but you've also got to counterbalance that with the teams that are going to be there at the very bottom. And so in the end, we came up with our rankings, and I think they might be surprising to people. And so I don't know if you have the graphic.
I do. Here we go.
We're gonna throw up. These are the top 10. You can find all the ratings, all 21 district or regions rated at TexasFootball.com on my piece. But the top region in the state, the Piney Woods, that may be a bit of a surprise to some people. But when you consider the fact that they've got pound for pound the best team in the state, that's Carthage. Carthage was pound for pound the best team in the state. They were far better than every other 4A Division II team. And then you add in what I think is really considerable depth, whether you're talking about Huntsville, Timpson, Tenaha, Tatum, Beckville, Lufkin had a decent year, Garrison Center, like they get really, really deep. And yeah, there are only a couple of teams at the very, very bottom to kind of drag them down. And so in the end, on balance, the Piney Woods had the best Texas high school football in the state, followed closely by the Brazos Valley. So we're talking think Greater College Station, Bryan College Station is what you're thinking there. And that is the perfect example of a region that doesn't have one absolutely dominant team, but does have a bunch of really quality squads. And more importantly, very few teams at the very bottom that are dragging them down. So the best team in Brazos Valley, according to our rankings, was Franklin. The 3A Division II runner-up. But then you add in a really good 6-man team in Calvert, and then you add in a 10-win College Station team, and an 11-win Normandy team, and a 9-1 Hearn team, an 8-3 A&M Consolidated team, 12-2 Buffalo. Like, the depth there was really, really impressive. Panhandle comes in third, Canadian kind of leading the way there. Wellington obviously had a fantastic year as well. Groom, an outstanding 6-man squad. Wichita Falls, another team that kind of benefits from being relatively small, because Windthorst leads the way, obviously the 2A Division II state champions, but you add in a team like Graham, who was very good this year. Wichita Falls Ryder and Holiday were excellent as well. and just very few teams at the very bottom to drag them down. Hill Country comes in 5th, Big Country 6th. The first time we get to a major metro area is when we get to San Antonio. San Antonio, I think, is very interesting because doing most of the heavy lifting, in fact, of the top 7 teams in the San Antonio region, only 2 of them were big schools.
Yeah.
But San Antonio is getting boosted by Shiner, who we consider to be San Antonio region. Poth, Hallettsville, you add in Fall City and Geronimo Navarro. Those were the teams that really boosted. So yeah, from the big school perspective, San Antonio Reagan and Cibolo Steele were the best. But they got boosted by a lot of the small schools that were really good that maybe you don't think about when you're talking about San Antonio area high school football.
That makes me
East
wonder
Texas comes in 8th.
How much higher they would have been if Judson would have gone and done normal Judson things, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, if they would have had 1 or 2 more 6A teams that really would have been boosted, I wonder if they would have gotten into the top 5. East Texas comes in at number 8, which again might surprise a few people. The thing that thing about that though is East Texas had a group of about 12 teams at the very bottom that were really dragging them down. That Longview, Malakoff, Gilmer, Mount Vernon, Wascom, Pleasant Grove, Lindale, all exceptional. Mineola in that mix as well, but they're all kind of counterbalanced by that by kind of a glut of teams at the bottom. The South Plains there, the Lubbock area is the 9th rated Texas high school football region in 2020, and then you get to DFW. DFW comes in 10th, and that is a team again. I think you've got an argument that they have. I mean, they probably have 3. I mean, they don't have 3 state champions, right? Denton Ryan, Aledo, and then Argyle. And then you've got other teams like Duncanville and Ennis and South Lake Carroll and Grandview who are all excellent as well. But the thing you've got to remember is you're also counting in all of these other teams. And you're talking, I mean, for every Duncanville that you have, you've got to count in, a Fort Worth Diamond Hill Jarvis, right? For every South Lake Carroll that you have, you're going to need to include an Irving. So that balance there is what kind of ends up getting them into 10th. If you're interested, and I know you are because you're watching this show, the full rankings, number 11 is Permian Basin. Their best team was Balmorhea. Number 12 is Austin. Austin Westlake is the bell cow there. Super Centex, kind of greater Waco area, is 13th. Mart is there. 14th was Coastal Bend, with Refugio leading the way. Houston is 15th. And again, a lot of the problems with DFW, they just didn't end up having the state champions that DFW had. And so Galena Park North Shore, the best team in the Houston area in 2021 or 2020. Concho Valley 16, Texoma 17, Golden Triangle 18, and the bottom 3, Rio Grande Valley, El Paso, and then South Texas, which is what we kind of consider to be greater Laredo area. And so there it is. It's my piece up on TexasFootball.com. The best Texas high school football regions in 2020. I hope you'll take a look at it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and be gentle, but know that this is all based on math. We can certainly debate the methodology, but this is what the computer says. The computer says that the Piney Woods was the place to find the best Texas high school football in 2020. And it's not just Carthage, you know what I mean? Carthage obviously does a lot of that, but Huntsville and Timpson and a lot of those other teams were really, really good in 2020, helped to buoy those deep East Texas Piney Woods. So check that out on TexasFootball.com.